All right, so get ready, because today we are diving deep into online romance scams.
Ooh, juicy.
It is juicy, but also kind of scary.
Yeah, for sure.
We're talking stolen hearts, stolen savings, the whole shebang.
Yeah, it's way more common than people think, right? Like, it's not just a few sad stories. It's like a whole industry almost.
It's huge EE, and the FBI is saying it just keeps growing right alongside online dating.
Makes sense, though, when you think about it, right? Online dating, it's all about, like, vulnerability, putting yourself out there.
Exactly. And scammers, they can sniff out vulnerability like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah, they're pros at exploiting that need for connection, you know?
Okay, so full disclosure, you're probably thinking I'd never fall for that. And listen, maybe you wouldn't.
But some of these scammers, they're like masters of manipulation.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about being gullible. It's about them being really good at what they do.
They know all the right buttons to push, how to build trust, how to make you think they're the real deal.
So let's break it down. First off, this isn't just a couple of lonely hearts with too much time on their hands. We're talking organized crime here.
Seriously, like, we see these scams coming from everywhere. West Africa, Southeast Asia, you name it.
It's a global network of heartache, basically.
It's crazy, right? Like, no matter where it's coming from, the goal is the same. Your money.
Okay, so give us the rundown. Where are these scammers operating from and what makes each place unique?
All right, so West Africa, they're known for those Yahoo scams, right? Posing as, like, wealthy foreigners, all lovey-dovey.
Ah, the old, I've got a fortune, but I just need you to help me unlock it routine.
That's the one. Lots of sob stories, promises of riches, all to get you to trust them before they hit you with the, oh no, I need money.
So it's like a long con, playing the part for months, maybe even years before they swoop in for the kill. Okay, what about other places? Any other MOs we should know about?
Oh yeah, Southeast Asia, especially the Philippines, it's almost like a family business in some areas, sadly.
Wow, so it's like ingrained in certain community.
Yeah, and then you've got places like China, where it often gets tangled up with investment schemes, cryptocurrencies, stuff like that.
So they're adding insult to injury. Not only do they break your heart, they try to clean out your portfolio too.
Exactly, it's a double whammy.
Okay, so we've established that this is a global issue, right? But let's get personal. How do these scammers choose their targets? Is it random? Or is there a method to their madness?
Oh, there's definitely a method, and it's kind of creepy how strategic they are. The SCARS Institute, they're like the experts on this stuff, and they've done a ton of research on who gets targeted.
So spill the tea. What makes someone a prime target for these heartbreakers?
Well, for one, your online presence is like a beacon to them. They're all over social media, dating sites, looking for clues.
The clues. Like what? Give us the inside scoop.
Think about it. If you're posting about, like, a recent breakup, feeling lonely, that kind of stuff to them, it's like a big flashing sign saying, vulnerable heart here.
So they're basically emotional vultures preying on people at their lowest points.
Pretty much, yeah. But it goes deeper than that. They also look at demographics. Older adults, they're often seen as more trusting, more likely to have some savings tucked away.
Ageism and fraud. What a combo.
It's awful. And here's the thing. Even if you think you're careful about what you share online, data breaches, they throw a wrench in everything.
Oh no, not data breaches. Those are scary enough on their own.
Right, but think about it. All that personal info floating around after a breach, your name, email, maybe even financial details, it's a gold mine for scammers.
So even if you're careful, you might still be vulnerable without even knowing it.
Exactly. They can use that information to craft these super convincing personalized scams. It's scary.
Okay, so we've got organized criminals scouring the internet for vulnerable hearts, armed with our own personal information thanks to data breaches. Not exactly a feel-good story.
Nope, not at all. But hey, that's why we're here, right? To shine a light on this stuff, arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself.
Knowledge is power, baby.
Yeah.
And before we get into the specifics of how these scams actually work, I need a minute to process this whole data breach thing. That's a whole other level of scary I hadn't even considered.
Right. It's like a hidden vulnerability you have no idea.
Okay, deep breaths, deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we know how they find their targets, but how do they actually reel them in? This is where the psychology gets really interesting, and by interesting, I mean kind of terrifying.
Oh, yeah, they're basically manipulating your brain chemistry without you even realizing it.
Brain chemistry.
Ooh.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Break it down for us. What's the science behind this love potion gone wrong?
All right, so you know those feel-good chemicals your brain releases when you, like, fall in love? Dopamine, oxytocin, all that good stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that makes us feel all warm and fuzzy and connected to someone.
Exactly. Well, scammers, they figured out how to trigger those chemicals artificially.
Wait, seriously, how?
Think about it. They shower you with compliments, make you feel like you're the most amazing, desirable person on the planet.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Even knowing it's a scam, that sounds kind of nice.
Right. And all that validation, all that attention, it triggers a release of dopamine in your brain.
Hmm.
You literally start associating them with feeling good,
So they're hacking our brains to make us fall for them.
pretty much. And as if that wasn't bad enough, then they start with the personal stories, the heartfelt confessions, all designed to build intimacy and trust.
And that's where the oxytocin comes in, right? The bonding hormone makes you feel
Yeah.
connected to them even if you've never met in person.
Bingo! So you're getting hit with a double whammy of feel-good chemicals, all orchestrated to lower your defenses and make you more susceptible to their manipulation.
Wow, that's some seriously next level stuff. Okay, so our brains are practically wired to fall for this, but how does the scam actually play out? Like, how do they go from charming online persona to actually getting their hands on people's money?
It's like a staircase. They lead you down one step at a time, each step drawing you further into their web.
Okay, I'm officially creeped out, but also kind of hooked. Give me the steps, detective. What's the first move in the scammer's playbook?
All right, so it usually starts innocently enough. A message on a dating app, a friend request on social media, something simple.
And I bet their online profile is meticulously crafted to lure their target audience.
Oh, absolutely. They're masters of creating these fake personas, complete with sob stories or glamorous lifestyles.
Hit us with some classics. What kind of characters do they typically play?
Oh, you've got your classic widowed soul looking for love, the successful entrepreneur who travels the world, maybe even the soldier stationed overseas.
So they're either tugging at your heartstrings or appealing to your sense of adventure. And I'm guessing there's always a convenient reason why they can't meet in person.
Always. Too busy, too far away, you name it. The important thing is to maintain the illusion, keep you hooked on the fantasy.
So they've established contact, they've got you interested. What's next?
Then comes the trust building phase. This is where they really turn on the charm. Constant messages, long phone calls, sharing personal details. They're probably all made up, of course.
So they create this sense of intimacy, make you feel like you're the only one who truly understands them.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really insidious. They often start isolating you from your friends and family.
Wait, what? How do they pull that off?
They plant these seeds of doubt, maybe suggest that your loved ones don't really understand the relationship or that they're just jealous.
They're trying to cut off your support system, make you even more dependent on them.
Exactly. They want you all to themselves, so to speak. And once they've got you isolated and emotionally invested, that's when they make their move.
The dreaded ask.
Ah,
Dun, dun, dun. Is it always about money, or do they try other things?
money's usually the end goal, but they might start small. A loan to cover an unexpected expense, a plane ticket to finally meet you.
But it always escalates, right?
Always. And by that point, you're so emotionally invested, you just want to help them. You're not thinking clearly.
And they've conveniently cut off all your other support systems, so
Yeah.
you're more likely to give in to their demands.
It's a recipe for disaster, unfortunately. And it's heartbreaking how many people fall victim to this.
It really is. Okay, so we've covered the initial stages of the scam, but I'm dying to know more about these manipulation tactics. What are some of the specific things they do to keep their victims hooked?
Well, one of the most common and effective tactics is called love bombing.
Love bombing. Okay, I've heard that term thrown around, but give us a refresher. What exactly is it and how does it work?
It's basically an overwhelming display of affection, especially early on in the relationship. Think tons of compliments, declarations of love, maybe even extravagant gifts that you later find out were bought with your own money. But that's a story for later.
So it's like being swept off your feet, but instead of Prince Charming, it's a scammer with a stolen credit card.
You got it. And all that attention, all those grand gestures, it's designed to create this whirlwind of euphoria, this feeling of being completely adored and cherished. It makes it really hard to see the red flags.
Because who wants to question a fairy tale, right?
Right.
Especially when your brain is being flooded with all those happy hormones. But surely at some point, some doubts must creep in. How do they handle that?
Often with a healthy dose of gaslighting.
Ugh, gaslighting. The favorite tool of manipulators everywhere. For those who aren't familiar with this delightful term, give us the Psych 101 breakdown.
Basically, gaslighting is all about making you doubt your own sanity, your own perceptions, your own memories. It's insidious and incredibly effective.
Okay, give us an example. How would a romance scammer use gaslighting in a conversation?
Let's say you start questioning something. Maybe you've noticed an inconsistency in their story. Instead of addressing it directly, they turn it around on you. You're always so suspicious, they might say, or don't you trust me?
So they make you feel bad for even questioning them, make you second guess yourself.
Exactly. And over time, that constant self-doubt can really eat away at your confidence, making you more reliant on them for reassurance and validation, which, of course, plays right into their hands.
It's a vicious cycle. Okay, so we've got love bombing and gaslighting.
Yeah.
Any other shady tactics in their arsenal?
Oh, they've got a whole toolbox full of them. Another big one is creating a sense of urgency or crisis.
Right, like those fake emergencies we talked about earlier.
Exactly. They know that when we're stressed or afraid, we don't think as clearly, so they manufacture these situations where you feel like you need to act immediately without thinking things through.
Like what kind of situations? Give us the greatest hits of scammer fabricated emergencies.
Oh, it could be anything that tugs at the heartstrings and creates a sense of panic. A sudden illness or accident, a family member in trouble, legal problems that require immediate financial assistance, you name it.
And of course, they always emphasize secrecy, right?
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone, they'll just make things worse, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. It's all about isolating you further, making you more dependent on them, and preventing you from seeking outside help or advice.
It's like emotional blackmail, really.
Yeah.
They're playing on your empathy, your desire to help those you care about, even if that care is based on a lie.
It's incredibly manipulative. And what's worse, it often works.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So we've got love bombing, gaslighting, creating a sense of urgency. Are there any other major red flags that people should watch out for?
One that's often overlooked is how they prey on your empathy and generosity. They love to paint themselves as the victim.
Right, like they're down on their luck, life's been unfair to them, and you're the only one who can save them.
Exactly. It feeds into that savior complex that some people have, that desire to fix things, to make things better.
And they're patient, right? They're playing the long game. They're willing to spend months, even years, grooming their victims, building that emotional connection.
Absolutely. The longer it goes on, the more invested you become, the harder it is to walk away, even when the red flags are glaringly obvious.
It's a truly devastating betrayal. But what happens when the money runs out, or when the victim finally starts to see through the lies? Do the scammers ever face consequences?
Sadly, more often than not, once they've gotten what they can, they disappear.
Ghost you like a bad Tinder date.
Worse. Because this time, you're not just out a few drinks and a night of awkward conversation. You're potentially out thousands of dollars and your sense of self-worth. The emotional fallout can be devastating.
I can only imagine. Feeling betrayed, foolish, violated. It must be incredibly difficult to process and heal from that kind of experience.
It is. It's a real trauma, and it's important to treat it as such.
So for anyone listening who might be going through this right now, what resources are available? We've mentioned the SCARS Institute, but are there others?
Yes, absolutely. SCARS is a great resource, but there are also others depending on where you are in the world.
We'll be sure to list those in the show notes. But for now, let's just reiterate that if you've been a victim of a romance scam, you are not alone. It's not your fault, and there is help available.
Absolutely. Reach out to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, family member, therapist, or a support organization. There's no shame in asking for help.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The global reach of these scams, the psychology behind them, the devastating impact they can have on victims. It's a lot to digest.
It really is. But hopefully, by shedding light on this issue, we can help people protect themselves and avoid becoming another statistic.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Absolutely. And sometimes a little skepticism can go a long way.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back in a jiffy to talk more about practical tips for staying safe online and what to do if you think you might be caught in a romance scam. Don't go anywhere.
You know, it's kind of wild how these scams, they prey on our good intentions, like that basic human instinct to want to help someone in need.
Right, it's like they figured out how to weaponize empathy.
Exactly. But okay, let's get back to those practical tips, like how to actually spot these scams before they get out of control. We were talking about being wary of unsolicited contact, right? And never, ever sending money to someone you've only met online.
Yeah, that's like rule number one of the internet, right? No matter how convincing their story is or how urgently they need the money, hitting send on that payment could be a huge mistake.
Huge. And this is where, a little bit of healthy skepticism can be your best friend. If something, anything, feels even slightly off about the whole thing, trust your gut.
Easier said than done, right? When you're caught up in the moment, especially if there are feelings involved.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's easy for us to say, just be careful, but these scammers, they're pros at playing with your emotions, making their lies seem like the gospel truth.
So what do you do if you're in that situation? Like you've maybe already sent some money and you're starting to have second thoughts, but admitting you've been scammed feels impossible.
Okay, first things first, take a deep breath. It's more common than you think, and it's not your fault. These scammers, they're masters of manipulation. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, like we said, they prey on good people, people who want to see the best in others.
Exactly. So if you're in that situation, the most important thing is to reach out for help. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, family member, therapist, and consider going to the authorities.
I know some people might feel hesitant about going to the police, like they're embarrassed or think it won't do any good.
I get it, but reporting it is crucial. Not only does it create a record of what happened, it can actually help law enforcement track these scammers down and prevent them from doing this to someone else.
Right, because this isn't like stealing a wallet, where you might be able to get your money back if you catch the thief quickly enough.
Unfortunately, no. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Report it to your bank, your credit card company. They might have procedures in place for situations like this.
And I'm guessing organizations like the SCARS Institute can probably offer some guidance on financial recovery, too.
Absolutely. Their website is a goldmine of information reporting scams, dealing with banks, even finding legal advice.
Okay, good to know. So we've covered a lot of practical stuff, but we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the emotional toll these scams take.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about the money. It's about feeling betrayed, violated. It can really mess with your head.
Yeah, it's like, how do you even begin to heal from something like that?
Honestly, it takes time and support. Don't try to go through it alone.
So to anyone listening who might be dealing with the aftermath of a romance scam, what would you say to them?
Be kind to yourself. It's okay to grieve the loss of that relationship, even if it wasn't real in the way you thought it was. And please, don't be afraid to seek professional help. A therapist can give you the tools to process everything, rebuild your self-esteem, and move on.
It's like they always say, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Exactly. And who knows, sharing your story might even help someone else avoid falling into the same trap.
Love that, turning your pain into someone else's gain. Okay, so we've talked about healing, but how do we prevent this from happening in the first place? Besides being cautious about who we trust online, are there any other, digital safety tips we should all be practicing?
Oh, for sure. This is like basic internet hygiene, people. First up, strong passwords. And I mean strong, not your dog's name or your birthday.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on people who use the same password for everything.
The worst. One data breach and your whole digital life is toast. Use a password manager if you have to. Just make sure each password is unique.
Preach. What else?
Two-factor authentication. Turn it on everywhere you can. It's like an extra layer of protection, even if someone gets hold of your password.
Okay, but for those who don't speak tech, explain it like we're five. What is two-factor authentication?
Basically, it means that even if someone steals your password, they still need a second piece of information to get into your account, like a code sent to your phone. It's much harder for the bad guys to hack.
So, strong passwords, two-factor authentication, got it. What about all the personal information we put out there online?
Be mindful. Think before you post. Do you really need to share your home address, your phone number, your birthday with the entire internet?
Right, because once it's out there forever.
Exactly. And speaking of out there, let's talk about social media. It's like a playground for scammers.
Oh yeah, they're lurking in the comments section just waiting to pounce on an unsuspecting victim.
So be smart. Adjust your privacy settings, limit who can see your posts and your personal information, and be wary of anyone who contacts you out of the blue, especially if they seem too good to be true.
Right, because chances are they probably are.
Okay.
Okay, so we've covered passwords, privacy settings, social media safety. Any other red flags we should watch out for when interacting with people online, especially if there's a romantic vibe going on?
One word, pace. If someone is coming on way too strong, way too fast, that's a major red flag.
Like I love you on the first date, kind of fast.
Even faster. If they're showering you with compliments, making grand promises before they even met you in person, proceed with extreme caution.
So if it feels like they're trying to fast forward through the whole getting to know you phase, that's a bad sign.
Exactly. A healthy relationship takes time to develop. Trust needs to be earned. If someone is pressuring you to move faster than you're comfortable with, that's a huge red flag.
And in those situations, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is.
Your intuition is your superpower. Don't ignore it.
Love it. Okay, so we've talked about recognizing red flags, protecting yourself online, seeking support if you need it. What about resources for, like, reporting scams and getting help after the fact? We mentioned SCARs, but what about government agencies or other organizations?
Oh, yeah, there are tons of resources. Here in the US, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, they have a whole website and hotline dedicated to this stuff.
The FTC, okay. What about internationally?
Canada has the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. The UK has Action Fraud. Most countries have something similar, some kind of agency dedicated to fighting fraud.
Good to know. Okay, so bottom line, if you or someone you know has been affected by a romance scam, or any kind of scam really, you are not alone.
Seriously, there are people out there who understand what you're going through, and there is help available.
And never be afraid or ashamed to talk about it.
Sharing your story can be a powerful tool for healing and for protecting others.
All right, so let's wrap up this section by really hammering home the importance of being informed and aware when it comes to online safety.
Absolutely. The more you know about how these scams work, the better equipped you'll be to spot them a mile away.
It's all about being proactive, staying informed, and trusting your instincts.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to shift gears a bit and dive into the psychology of these scams.
Ooh, yeah, let's get inside the mind of a scammer. This is where it gets really interesting. Okay, so we've talked about how these scams work, where they come from, the damage they can do. But now for the real head scratcher. Why are they so effective? It's not just about falling for a fake profile. It's about getting sucked into this whole other reality.
It's because they're tapping into something much deeper than just wanting a date, you know? It's that basic human need for connection, for love, for feeling like you matter to someone. That's powerful stuff.
It's like they're hijacking our emotions, the very things that make us human.
Exactly. And they're really good at it, too. They know how to create this echo chamber where all your deepest desires and insecurities are reflected back at you, but it's all a carefully constructed illusion.
So it's not just about being gullible. It's about being human.
Exactly. And like we talked about before, a big part of this is how they manipulate our brain chemistry, those feel-good hormones that make us crave connection.
Right, the dopamine, the oxytocin. They're like master chemists, concocting these love potions to make us addicted to them.
It's really quite brilliant in a twisted sort of way. Imagine this. You're feeling down, lonely, and suddenly you start getting these incredibly flattering messages from someone online. They tell you how amazing you are, how intelligent, how attractive.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be pretty appealing, especially if you're feeling vulnerable.
Of course. And all that validation, all that positive reinforcement, it triggers a surge of dopamine in your brain. You literally start associating them with feeling good, even if you've never met them.
So they're creating this positive feedback loop where the more attention they give you, the more you crave it.
Exactly. And then as the relationship progresses, they start sharing personal stories, expressing their deep affection for you, and that's where the oxytocin comes in.
The bonding hormone, the one that makes us feel all warm and fuzzy and connected.
Bingo. So not only are they making you feel good, they're also creating this sense of trust and attachment, all through carefully crafted messages and interactions.
It's no wonder people fall for it. They're literally being manipulated at a chemical level.
It's true. And it's not just about the positive emotions either. They're also masters at using fear, guilt, and obligation to get what they want.
Right, like those fake emergencies they invent, the sudden illnesses, family crises, all designed to evoke a sense of urgency and panic.
Exactly. Because when we're stressed or afraid, our rational thinking tends to go out the window. We're more likely to make impulsive decisions, which is exactly what these scammers are counting on.
So they create these situations where you feel like you have to act immediately, without thinking things through or seeking advice from others.
And of course, they often discourage you from telling anyone else, which further isolates you and makes you more reliant on them.
It's a vicious cycle of manipulation. So, knowing all of this, how do we protect ourselves? How do we stay open to genuine connection without becoming vulnerable to these predators?
It's a tough question, and there's no easy answer. But I think a big part of it is awareness. The more you know about these tactics, the better equipped you'll be to spot them and protect yourself.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to be skeptical. If something feels off, trust your gut instinct. It's better to be safe than sorry.
And remember, if you do find yourself in a situation where you've been scammed, it's not your fault. There are people who care, and there's help available.
You are not alone. And with time and support, you can and will heal from this.
This has been a heavy one, folks. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I know it can feel overwhelming. But if you take away just one thing from this deep dive, let it be this. Knowledge is power. The more you know about how these scams work, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself and the people you love.
Well said. And remember, if something feels off, trust your gut. You are your own best advocate when it comes to online safety.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for today's deep dive. We know it was a lot, but we hope you found it helpful. Remember to check out the show notes for all the resources we mentioned. And until next time, stay safe out there